animals that nature has treated them unjustly. Some would argue that nature has been good to us. If evolution is correct, we've advanced from swimming in the deep sea to walking upright and establishing towns all over the globe. Although this would have put humans at the top of the food chain, it is not the case for all species, and we are somewhat to blame. Today, we'll take a look at some of the creatures that have been unjustly handled by nature. So let's get started. Number 10. Spider in Resin. Remember the scene in Jurassic Park 1 when the park's owner, John Hammond, goes about with a walking stick with a resin tip? The resin, it turns out, contains a mosquito trap from the Jurassic Park, and the DNA for all the dinosaurs in the park originated from these insects trapped inside the amber. Although it may seem far-fetched, comparable resins do exist in the current world. This is an unfortunate spider that has been imprisoned in amber for 20 million years, according to some. Perhaps a real-life Jurassic Park isn't that far-fetched after all, if we have all the capability to reproduce dinosaurs as in the movie. Number 9. Fainting Goats. Have you heard of the survival advice of pretending to be dead in the presence of a bear? This goat may seem to be attempting to trick a stray bear, but it is not doing it willingly. The myotonic goat, sometimes known as the Tennessee fainting goat, is a kind of myotonic goat. This breed of goat, as the name implies, has totally burned or frozen up and fallen over when frightened. Scientists believe it's a genetic condition without any known treatment. Although one trial found that restricting these goats' water for 30 days helped the symptoms go away, they reappeared when water was reintroduced. In the future, science may be able to heal their odd ailment. Number 8. Antmill. Ants are a fascinating kind of insect. Take a look at this odd occurrence. It seems to be a vortex leading to another realm controlled by ants. An antmill is what you're looking at right now. When army responses abandon their primary foraging group and the pheromone trail, they form a continuous circle and start following one another. It's also known as a death spiral because, in most instances, the ants get trapped in the configuration and continue to circle until they exhaust themselves. It may continue for anywhere from hours to days until someone discovers the lost path and leads all of the ants out of the spiral. In the 1920s, an American entomologist named William Beebe discovered this phenomenon, but what he saw was not your typical antmill. The circumference was estimated to be approximately 370 meters. Isn't it crazy? That's nearly as tall as New Zealand's Sky Tower. An ant takes nearly 2.5 hours to complete one circuit around this enormous antmill, according to Phoebe. Number 7. Rat King. Then, for something a little more disgusting, if you feel your stomach flipping over, that's definitely the appropriate reaction to have in response to this bizarre occurrence. If you think this is some weird ritual conducted by a secret cult, you're misinformed. The Rat King is a bizarre structure that was originally observed in 1564. For something so heinous, it's a really great name. These rats seem to have been tethered to their tails and died a long and painful death from hunger. According to one common theory, the tails of these rats are made up of a sticky material made up of skin fat, excrement, and food leftovers. When these rats sleep together in tight areas throughout the winter, the sticky concoction solidifies. When they understand they're tied to one another, they attempt to break free, but the knot just grows tighter. When freedom of movement is denied, everyone eventually dies of hunger. It's difficult to provide a good explanation for this occurrence since it's so uncommon. Squirrels have been seen in the same position. That would be some weird stuff. Number 6. Hummingbirds. Consider how difficult your life is. It's unlikely that you'll even get near the hummingbird. These little birds have such a high metabolic rate that they must be fed all the time. It's game over for a hummingbird if it spent 2 hours without nectar. They must gather nectar from at least 2,000 flowers per day just to keep their metabolism going and survive. Imagine a life in which you are always on the lookout for food, one after the other, until you die. Because there are so little, any changes in the environment might make the difference between life and death. Even raindrops would be comparable to being struck with stones on the head. Please, just be kind to them. Number 5. Self-cannibalism. The Ouroboros is a mythical creature that represents the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It's also a symbol that's often linked to alchemy. However, we aren't here to talk about an old sign. There is, in fact, a real-life counterpart to this. Snakes consume the meat of their own tails. It was a weird sight to see. What are they doing eating themselves? According to scientists, this strange occurrence occurs when a snake misinterprets its own tail movement for a lack of prey. The knave snake doesn't waste any time in snatching up a prospective meal and ends up doing this. Number 4. Zombie moose. Zombies aren't simply a movie concept. There are lots of examples of zombie-like animals in nature. The brainworm is a kind of brain parasite that is most frequently seen in white-tailed deers. As the name implies, they've developed a strong tolerance for the parasite since they're so widespread across deer species. This is not the case with these unknowing moose. The parasite is typically excreted from the urine of these white-tailed deer, and any unfortunate moose that eats them will get infected with the brainworm. The worm heads straight for the brain, tunneling inside it and impacting negatively on the central nervous system. The moose may be seen here running in circles and out of control. This is one of the parasite's symptoms, and it often leads to. This is not a good path to take. Number 3. Tuskless elephants. Trophy hunting and game hunting have been a long part of human civilization. While this practice lasted for generations, no one thought much about the future. Many species were wiped to extinction at one point in time. Modern elephants, for example, were extensively hunted for their valuable ivory tusks, and it is believed that there were 26 million elephants roaming the African continent in the 16th century. This is the current number, fewer than 500,000 owing to widespread poaching for their tusks all throughout the world. These ivory tusks are a high-priced item in Asian marketplaces. Ivory is sold for thousands of dollars and is used to make a variety of handmade artwork and jewelry, piano keys, organ keys, illid balls, and even the production of specialized equipment for aircraft and radar are some of the other commercial applications. After decreasing their population to such low levels, a slew of conservation initiatives have sprung up. These magnificent creatures, however, are still in danger of extinction. Surprisingly, it seems that nature may have stepped in to help with this strange genetic event. It should be mentioned that many African elephants have been born without their tusks in recent decades. Because elephants with tusks are often poached, those born without them have a better chance of surviving. Poachers have nothing to salvage without the tusks, so they pack their stuff and look for work somewhere. Number 2. Mummified Dog. Larger creatures, like the spider trapped in resin, may sometimes suffer a similar fate. Stocky is someone you should get to know. When this unfortunate hound dog became trapped in a chestnut oak in Georgia in the 1960s, he died. It wasn't discovered until 1980 when a group of loggers cut down the same tree found Stocky's mummified bones in a 28-foot hollow section. The loggers chose to give the hollow trunk with the dog to Tree World, a museum in the state. After discovering such a unique item, the mummy's teeth were completely intact and on full show in the immaculately preserved mummy. A chimney effect is mentioned as one of the explanations for how Stocky was maintained so effectively. The upward airflow through the hollow trunk took away the dead animal that had been thrown from the tree, preventing insects and animals from scavenging it. The idea is that, since the interior of the tree is rather dry, tannic acid, a natural chemical that absorbs moisture and dries out its surroundings, may have aided the dog's escape. So, how did he get himself in there in the first place? One theory is that he was pursuing a raccoon and pursued it all the way into this hollow place since he was a hound dog. At the very least, he became trapped while doing something he enjoyed, chasing animals. Number 1. Carrion Beetles. All living things will ultimately nourish the different creatures that emerge after death, which is unavoidable. When dead animal carcasses are invaded by different insects, this may be seen on the forest floor. Take, for example, carrion beetles. They are most often seen where there is rotting meat, manure, or fungus. They are nature's janitors, cleaning up the bones and helping to clean up the surroundings. Some beetles may even chew through a deer's body. It became food as well as being trapped in a crack. Let's ignore the apparent truth that the beetles did an excellent job. Another fascinating fact about the carrion beetle is that its presence on a dead corpse is used by forensic science to determine the period since someone died. Some beetles have had a role in a number of murder investigations. These were a few creatures that have had it tough and have most likely been treated unjustly by nature. What are your thoughts about them? Do you think these animals deserve to be treated unfairly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. before leaving, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications of our future content. With that being said, see you in the next one.